Welcome to the Bold Dreams Held Loosely podcast. My name is Taryn Watts, and in this episode, I am joined by my co-host, Michelle Theriault, where we talk about arriving despite current circumstances. I always say that the quickest way to close the gap from where you are today to where you want to be in that vision for your life and the boldest intention you could create for your life, the quickest way to close that gap is to show up as the version of yourself in that vision today, despite current circumstances, despite the fact that the elements of the vision haven't fully come to fruition yet. In this episode, Michelle and I talk about what it looks like in practice to actually show up in all of the humanness and all of the messiness, and what it takes to continue showing up that way when life is presenting you with the exact opposite of what you want. We hope you enjoy. This is like the key. You've got this bold dream. You've got this vision for your life. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, is how to arrive into the dream. So we always say that the quickest way to close the gap from where you are today to where you want to be in your vision is to begin showing up as that version of you today, despite current circumstances. So despite the fact, so often we feel like, as I say, like the royal we is like a human being species. We feel like once I get the thing, once I get the house, once I get the job, once I get the thriving career, once I get the money, once I get the kids, the whatever, then I will be happy. Then I will arrive. And that is it's an outside in. It's like an outside in perspective. And from my experience, I mean, you could be chasing that forever and ever and ever and ever, because there's always some kind of new shiny object to grab onto. The quickest way to close the gap is the reverse of that. It's like to begin showing up as the version of ourselves in our visions, despite the fact that not all the pieces of the puzzle are here. Mm-hmm. And so that is like so much of the internal work that we do. So that's kind of the theme of today's conversation. So Michelle, what's coming up for you as we start this conversation?
Okay. The first thing that's coming up for me is before you even get to the focused choice to show up as that version of you who's already inside your vision, that next best version of you, you have to actually understand how that version of you would show up. And I don't know if that's always obvious. Mm-hmm. Like what? Mm-hmm. Okay, what did it take for you to even know? Or what does it take for you to know how the next best version of you would show up?
Okay, so this vision for my life, it's been the same, but it's almost like the visions are alive and like evolving and getting clearer and just evolving forward. Nothing's like massively shifted. And so when I sit and I put myself in the vision and I like center myself in that, and I like embody, and I just really ask myself, like, who am I in the midst of all of these things? Like, who am I? It's interesting because the word freedom has always, like, I think it's the first word I always write. Like when I'm journaling about my vision, or when I'm asking myself, who am I in that vision? It's like, I am free. Mm-hmm. But I almost didn't really even know. It's like, I know, like, okay, I am free. Like, that's what I kept writing. But it's like, I didn't know what that meant, like that, what that fully meant. It actually took quite a bit of time to actually embody what freedom meant. I think my mind was still thinking freedom means being free from financial constraints. Freedom means being, you know, free to do whatever I want in the day. Freedom means, but like it was actually, so how do I embody that today, despite the fact that I am a mother of 2 young kids, I am an entrepreneur running a business, I have a husband who's also an entrepreneur. It's like none of those things are reality yet, but how do I find freedom today despite current circumstances? Yeah.
This like image is coming to mind, or this, it's like you're saying you feel a yearning for freedom. You know it's important to you. And your brain knows a lot of things about it. But the challenging part is actually feeling freedom.
Like embodying it. You're right. It's like my mind can conceptually try to think about what freedom means. Okay. And that actually would feed into my vision of like, okay, freedom means, you know, like simple examples. Freedom means freedom in the summers to like play with my kids and like also be on my own and read books by the pool. And freedom means like it intellectually added to this vision for my life. But then it had to move from here into here. And that does not happen overnight. Right?
No, yeah.
But then when it does happen, I always know that there's a we're on like the precipice of the next vision when I feel like I'm in some kind of an arrival of that next version of me. It's like I have arrived into a state of freedom, like not all the time, but like pretty consistently before the outer circumstances have arrived yet. That's the sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we talk about everything that happens in between?
In between what?
So you declare this bold dream for your life.
Yeah.
And you get clear about who it is that you are being. How are you showing up in the world? And then you begin to try that version of yourself on. And maybe like you're moving through life and things are going good and you're experiencing it. And then you are presented with situations and experiences and events that are quite literally the exact opposite of what it is that you're yearning to step into.
Yeah.
Like every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, because I know you are just inside of this experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Wait, before I tell about this one, can I tell about the last one?
Yeah.
Because right now I have this, I feel like I'm inside of that experience and I feel like I have trust that I know exactly what it is. But when I go back and look at the last time it happened, it's like this concrete thing I can see. I can see the whole thing play out. I can see the full arrival of everything that I wanted. So I have this deep yearning inside that's like part feeling, part knowing, part like these visions that come to mind in terms of love and relationship and the partnership that I wanted. Okay. I have some pictures come and I like in my mind and I know I have a vision of it. And as soon as I declared that to myself and out loud, relationships, and I thought, I'm being this version of me. I know I deserve it. I think this is the way I'm supposed to act. I think this is, it's like trying on a new jacket, like, how does this feel? And then relationship come that don't feel good. Like, but I'm being this version of me who's supposed to like attract these things that I want. And in those moments, it feels like a lot of doubt. It felt like a lot of doubt. What if I'm asking for too much in my vision? What if I don't deserve these things? What if it's not possible? Because I feel like I'm doing my best being this person, believing it's possible. And so the universe shows, or life presents these things that aren't what I want. And then so it wasn't even so much as simple as persevering in that. There's like this one little step in between for me before my outside life matched the version of me and everything that I wanted. It was like going from this mental picture of the relationship I wanted into actually feeling how I would feel when I had it. So that was such a key piece for me, is like the feeling. So not just believing it was coming, not just knowing I was that person, but sinking into like, what will it feel like to be so deeply loved the way I want to be loved? What will that actually feel like in my body? And to be able to, I found that a really tricky step, to just actually access the feeling inside my body of what it will feel like to be that deeply loved. And that felt like, and my mind had some resistance, because it's like, no, I will feel that when somebody loves me so deeply, then I will feel that. But it was actually true that I had to start accessing that feeling first inside of myself. And something about knowing I could get there myself inside my body felt like an important little piece of helping me stay steady in believing in the vision of being that person, of like, it's already a part of me.
It almost, it makes me think of, again, like bold dreams held loosely. Like that's the holding it loosely. It's because you can access that inside of you. The outer manifestation of it, like you can hold that loosely.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's what I conjure up when you say that.
Yeah.
So going back to this accessing this feeling. So what was your process like? How did you do that?
I don't even know. I think it was like, this is what I think it was like imagination. I really think it was like eyes closed, feeling in my body, feeling all sorts of fears, all sorts of objections from my mind that like, I don't know, like it wasn't possible. Closing my eyes, sinking into myself, and just like imagining, like fantasizing. Like, what are my like wildest dreams would feel so good. And doing that, like touching them in like a vision, a fantasy, a dream, in like a wildest dream, and touching the feeling of like, what will that feel like? I think, yeah.
And so when these relationships would come and they weren't what you wanted, what happened?
I think you might remember this moment. One would come, I'd have to say no to it because I realized this doesn't match my vision. It was like disheartening. I would keep going, do it again. I was persevering. And then it's like every time it got a little closer and closer. So every time it's like harder and harder when it doesn't work out and you have to say no. And then there's this relationship where I'm like, that's it. This is it. This is it. And then it was like, it became painfully, heartbreakingly clear. Oh no, this is like, doesn't feel good. And it was so disheartening that I found myself in the deepest of grief, like the deepest of grief. And I don't know if it was before or after a Zoom call, but I was sitting there with you on a call and I was just telling you how devastated I was feeling. I don't know, remember what else I said, but like a sense of like hopelessness, like, oh, it's like maybe it's actually not possible. Like maybe my dreams can't come true. And I remember you smiling at me and just sharing like, it was like you had this ability to hold my vision and see me in like utter breakdown and know it was like, and you could see and you knew that breakdown was like about to be a breakthrough and is part of the process. And you were just like, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I could see in your face, I was like, she believes I'm going to get my vision, but I'm in like the deepest grief right now. And something about what you were sharing held me through to get to the other side. And it was true. Mm-hmm. It was darkest before the dawn. And in those moments of deep, deep grief, I had to like just cry a lot and be in grief, but then continue to choose that I believed in my vision. And then there's just a delay between the inner world and trust and the outer world. There's just a bit of a delay. And then it came, and like the feeling of being that deeply loved, it's that and everything even more, you know?
It's like I heard trust and persevere in the delay.
Mm-hmm.
Like keep going.
Yes.
In the delay.
Yes.
Okay, so this dark night of the soul. This is what we need to talk about.
Yes. Okay. You told me something that day when you introduced this dark night. You know, it's always darkest before the dawn. You told me something that day that stuck with me, and I latched onto it and believed in it ever since, even though I have no idea where it came from. And you introduced me to the law of opposites.
Right.
Can you
Yes.
talk about the law of opposites?
Okay, so the law of opposites. So everyone talks about the law of attraction, and everyone knows The Secret and the law of attraction. And the law of opposites is so that it states that when you commit to this next level of greatness in your life, everything unlike that vision, that version of you, will come up to be healed in the process. That is the definition of the law of opposites. And I first heard that, it was almost like so I was doing this course with Neil Donald Walsh. He wrote the Conversations with God trilogy. And I was doing this, it was not a live course. It was like an online course that you listen to at your own pace. And he brought this up, this law of opposites, and defined it in that way. And it was almost like a not a warning, but like know that this is going to happen. This is actually law. This is like to know yourself to be the light, there needs to be darkness. To know yourself as loved and cherished and adored, you have to experience its opposite to like fully know that. To know myself as like a free being, I need to know what it feels like to be constricted and to not feel free. It's this law of duality. And when he started speaking about that, he said, when you commit to your next level of greatness, one of the first things that will happen, maybe not one of the first things, but you will go on your way and you will start to, like, you know, as you start to, you know, get clearer about this next version of yourself, like we're talking about, maybe you're like having like these aha moments and these things are happening, and just like you're having like, oh, that's not it, but you're feeling good. And then all of a sudden, right before the thing is about to come, an experience of the exact opposite comes first. And he said, it's law every time.
Yeah.
And he said it and then moved on to the next lesson. And I was like, hold up. What did he just say? It was almost like everything started making sense. All of the times
I had created a vision for my life. And I didn't know that's what I was doing then, but that's what I was doing. I had these dreams, like I would create the vision board, or I had these dreams, and I'd be going on my way. And then all of a sudden it would just be like, oh, things would just so easily throw me off track. And it was just like, this works for other people, but it won't work for me. When he said that, I was like, this is the missing piece. I needed, it's like my soul needed to hear that message. And so it was like, it just clicked. And so after that experience, I started a Law of Opposites journal. And I was really diving in. It was an experiment. I wanted to see how this was actually at play in my life. And one thing I have found I don't know if this is true for everyone, but one thing I have found in my experiment over the last, I don't even know how many years now that I've been like deeply experimenting with the Law of Opposites, is that for me, the Law of Opposites comes in threes. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
I'll park my thought. Keep going.
Okay. And it might be, sometimes they're big things, sometimes they're small. But in my years of experimentation with the Law of Opposites, it comes in these like patterns of three. And it's different than how we know the law of attraction to be, because the law of, when the law of attraction kind of strikes, and like, they talk about, if you're having a bad day and then it just kind of snowballs and you spill coffee all over yourself, you get into that, like, you get cut off on the way to work. It's like that kind of energy is anytime I'm like, so the law of attraction is in my is at play and something negative is happening, I'm like, okay, I see the brain pattern I was in. I see the energy I was putting out. I see how that was at play here, the law of attraction. The law of opposites is very different. When the law of opposites strikes, I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
What the hell was that?
Yeah.
It's like it sideswipes me. That's what it feels like every time. It's like takes me under my feet. And it always, if I think of it in the context of my greater vision, it is literally producing the exact opposite experience that I have defined in my vision. Always.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, I don't know if it comes for threes and everyone, but for me, I think it's also because I'm a stubborn human being. And it's like, life is just like, here you go, here you go, here you go. Like, you can't ignore this. It's almost comical, like how it happens. You can't ignore this.
Yeah.
And what the law of opposites used to do when I didn't know about the law of opposites is it used to derail me completely. It would totally derail me from my vision. What it does now is it is a reminder. It is a sign. As much as it might suck to sit through, and it often does really, really suck to sit through. But it is a sign that this vision is right around the corner. And so that day, and it's so much easier for me to hold that space for you because I'm not, that day. But that day you said that, it was just so clear to me. Like, of course.
Right.
Of course. This is part of the journey of growth. And I think this makes sense. Like, as humans what we do is we grow. We're here to grow, and we're here to learn, and we're here to evolve. And if all we were doing was manifesting all these beautiful, positive things without experiencing the opposite of that, without having to move through our own growth journeys and our own... When you commit to your next level of greatness, everything unlike that version of you must come up to be healed, or else how can we arrive? How can we embody that next version of me? Right?
Yeah. You're making me very excited right now.
Okay, good.
Because I just had law of opposite, a new theme come up.
Okay, let's hear it.
well, I've read you my vision statement, but for everyone else, I wrote a new piece of my vision statement about abundance, prosperity, money. It's been a long time coming. I resisted this one for a long time. It's beautiful. I love it. I love the way that in this new vision I've connected to, I love the way I feel so worthy and cared for and tended to and just like, oh, safe, full, nourished, thirst quenched. And a sense of like freedom and ease and delight. So I feel so fantastic. I'm like, this vision, oh, I write it down. I like say it out loud. I'm like, yes. Within days, one day I'm in the kitchen and my oven, literally a fireball explodes inside of it and it turns off. And it's like, need a new oven. Okay. That I can see where I'm like, well, my brain right now wants to go to, oh no, you're supposed to be paying down debt, not like adding more. That sucks. Then it's like, I'm choosing something else. Okay, I've got this. And then as soon as I'm like, okay, go out to get the mail, and it's like this like unexpected massive property tax bill. And it's like, this time I feel it more deeply. This time I feel it more of like a nervous system thing. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And not to like deny my experience and like immediately try to be like, no, right. Positive. But like, okay, my nervous system is feeling scared. It needs to be soothed. Okay, what do you need? Like move slowly, clean the kitchen, drink some tea, and read my vision statement and be like, I still believe that. And it's okay, body, you need to feel safe right now, but like I still believe that. And then I bring myself back again to this like equilibrium and I'm like, I'm doing it. I am choosing to believe that this vision is, I am being the version of me. And then I randomly decide to go down to my basement. This is the same day.
Oh, wow.
This is the same day. I'm going to go empty my dehumidifier, go down there. My basement is flooded and a pipe is leaking.
Oh my gosh, Michelle.
So you say like it comes in threes?
Yeah, it does come in threes.
It did just come in threes for me. And then by that third one though, I was like, this is ludicrous and comical. Okay. Yeah. Universe, I surrender. I will.
Yeah.
I let go. I surrender. Read my vision, anchor into it, feel the feelings, and like, I'll just do my best with the rest. And since that hasn't been that long ago, I guess, like, has it been about a week and a half, 2? I don't know. Since then, I'm just one foot in front of the other, and no lottery win has come into my life yet, but I really have this sense that, like, that was a really important opportunity for me. I read this quote on Instagram a little while ago, and it said, what if the universe isn't testing you? What if the universe is giving you an opportunity to be who you say you are?
Oh, I love that.
Right?
Yes.
And so it really feels like that wasn't trying to knock me down or make me prove myself. The universe was like, here is your chance to be this person you say you are, who believes in this vision, who knows this vision, who she's deserving of this vision, and it's coming. And it's like, I feel so good. Like, even though it's not here yet, I feel like that was my opportunity to be who I say I wanted to be, and I feel like I did it. And so, like, I'm just sitting here in trust now, one foot in front of the other, like, I just gotta keep going and be who I'm being. But the beautiful thing is that I actually feel really good right now. Even though not much has changed, I really feel good right now, and I don't feel urgent for the outside to just shower me with whatever money in abundance. And I'm like, I'm good right now. And I have a really good feeling about what's coming.
Again, held loosely. But like what you're describing is whenever I feel urgency in my vision, I'm gripping tight. Like something has to come now. So this energy that you're talking about, it's like the arrival after that law of opposites. It's like the opportunity to embody that next version of you. And now it's just waiting for life to catch up.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
That's why you were making me excited.
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. It means it's around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there's so many places my mind wants to take this. Okay, two things because I don't want to forget.
Right.
One is I want to talk about the difference between like where our feelings and emotions fit into this, and like not suppressing, not like spiritually bypassing, because I think that's like a real thing. And I want to explore that a little bit more. And then the other piece is like how the law of opposites, like how it evolves over time after you play with this. Okay, so let's explore these emotions first. I think one of the dangerous things in the world of, especially like the law of attraction, and it's like, choose a different thought. Choose to feel happy now.
Yeah.
And sometimes there can be this, like, almost this, like, bypassing of the real fearful emotions that, for me, in my experience anyway, has been absolutely necessary. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work for me to just not feel those things. Or it's not it's like my body's like this pressure cooker. And if I do that too much, and just, like, with this, like, almost this toxic positivity, if I do that too much, I will blow. What for you has been the balance? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think it's been really hard to find the balance. I feel like it's taken a long time to actually find the balance. I think the hardest part to finding the balance was actually getting comfortable with the emotions I really didn't want and not running away from them. So I think there's a difference between, okay, so if I go back to my experience of feeling unloved, uncherished, like just not good, just really not good in relationships, like really extremely not good, like really, really bad, really dishonored, really unloved, really neglected, all those things. There was moments of like desperation for what I wanted because I didn't want to feel the full extent of how bad it felt to feel unloved or like unhonored or like tossed aside or whatever. And so it was like, this sucks. It's horrible. I want this really bad. But it was so essential for me to like allow the impact of what I was experiencing that I didn't like to really kind of like land and honor like the full extent of how bad it actually felt. This feels really horrible. My body wants to cry. I'm going to cry for a bit. And then acknowledge to myself, I really don't want this. I really don't deserve this. Strangely enough, I was avoiding doing that for a very long time because I thought it would hurt too much. And instead of like, just like really being present with the pain, I just wanted to run away with it. And so I think for a while I was trying to bypass. I was like, I know I don't want it, so I don't have to feel it fully. I want to believe so bad in this vision. And so I couldn't find the balance without the full honoring and embracing first. But now I feel like I'm really good at that. Now it's my instinct when I have feelings. Now I'm like, okay, I know I have to sink into the full extent of them. And now I feel like I'm getting a little more masterful with this balance of choosing another thought. It's more natural now to be like, well, I know I have to feel all of my feelings, but now this other part is getting stronger, which feels more in balance. I'm starting to see more clearly how I can have a feeling, feel the fullness of it, but then not let it get carried away into a story. And instead of getting carried away into a story I don't want, choose that vision I do want, choose that thought I do want. And I can see how believing in that doesn't actually dishonor the reality of how I feel right now. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I think that, so as it relates to like feeling the fullness of your emotions and moving through those emotions so that you can choose a different thought, so that you can choose to anchor into your vision. What doesn't work for me is to bypass that and it's like then it becomes an intellectual choice and I'm bypassing my emotions and my true feelings. But with the knowledge and understanding now of the law of opposites, of the process, I can hold these two truths at once. I can hold this is where I'm going, and the more I practice this, the more I walk this path, the more evidence I collect that this is true. And it's not something, it's something I'm believing in, that's something greater than myself, but I have evidence now that this is true. So I can hold that as a truth, and I can also hold my humanness as a truth. And knowing that in order for me to, I need to honor when things come into my experience. So when the law of opposites comes into my experience and I'm feeling all sorts of emotions about it, I need to honor that, but it actually becomes a different kind of honoring, because I'm now fascinated by what are these feelings surfacing? And then I'm naming them. I feel constricted. I feel scared. I feel fearful. I feel lack. I feel scarcity. I feel limitation. I feel whatever it might be, and really name that and allowing myself to feel it, not with the intention of getting stuck there, but with the intention of moving these emotions through my body, so that it's releasing the pressure cooker so that I can reconnect back to the greater truth.
Yeah.
That, wow, look what is here for me. Look what this experience is surfacing. Look at the things that are in me, that are still in me, that need to be surfaced, to be looked at and healed, so that I can embody this next version of who I'm becoming, so that I can choose again. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a step by step, by experience, by emotion, then. But the feeling, the negative is just as important to me. It really is. And again, it's not with the intention of getting stuck there, but it's our bodies just need to process it and move it and honor it. And we're human beings. We're humans. This is what makes us human. I think that this is what makes this whole experience so beautiful and heartbreaking. But it's that duality. We can't have one without the other.
Yeah. When you're talking, it's striking me also that the bad feelings, the opposites, and like the law of opposites. It's such important information.
It's very important information.
It's like, and if you don't fully go into it, you do yourself a disservice and you don't get all of the information from it.
Yeah.
And it
right.
actually fuels your like it's going into and especially when you said like naming that feeling, I think that's a really important piece too. What powerful information. I can't imagine actually a quicker route to get to the thing you actually deeply want the most than to go into the feeling that feels horrible, name what it is, have that information, and then get to choose the opposite. Like I was in the shower yesterday feeling very like irritated in multiple ways. Allergies, noise, children, dogs. I was like, oh, I'm like so irritated. What is this? But it took a while to name like what am I feeling? What am I feeling? And I named it irritated. Okay, I am feeling irritated. I don't want this. What do I want? What's the opposite of irritation? Took a minute. Didn't know right away what I even wanted. It was, oh, soothed. I want soothed. And so now that's like information I didn't have before. And that goes in the vision. It's like, yeah, actually, that is what I want. And now I get to be inside of the question of what will soothe me. And I get to be open and I get to look, I get to be open to the answers coming in. But that wouldn't have, it doesn't come. The clarity doesn't come unless you're like, what is really here?
Yeah. The negative emotions, they carry such wisdom about the things that we yearn for, the things that we do want. I want to circle back to a question you had at the beginning around how do you know? Like, how do you know who it is? It's almost like, how do you know who it is that you're stepping into? And also, how do you identify the gap? Like, what is the gap? What's the work? Because there's work to be done if we are consciously closing the gap from where we want to be to where, from where we are today to where we want to be, there's a gap. How do we identify that gap? How do we very intentionally identify the gap to very intentionally close it? And hone in on it, name it, see it, so that we can do our work on ourselves to really embody and become.
Yeah.
Right? What's going on for you?
I think the process is so messy.
It's incredibly messy.
Yeah. And it strikes me as I think we're probably going to attempt to zero in on a more concrete, clear answer, but also the bigger picture answer, it's life. It's closing the gap is the living of your life. It's it's so many layers of things. What we were just talking about, the naming of, okay, so you go through your life, you feel something, instead of shoving it away and moving it on with your day, it's well, what I feel is important. It has a message for me. So even just the habit of, okay, what am I feeling? What information is here for me? What does it tell me? So there's that layer. There's the layer of as you realize what's true for you and what you want, you have to tell people. And that can be scary and brave.
Yeah,
or
make
you
new choices. Yeah, create boundaries, have difficult conversations, name what it is you truly desire.
Yeah. And so many more things.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the process? What do you think? What's the process for you?
Okay, I do have a process because I'm a process-oriented person. So I do have a process. I love naming things. I am both mind and soul. And, you know, it's, I'm a very soulful, spiritual person, but I'm also like an intellectual person that needs to like really understand it and dissect it and make sense of it. So here's my process when I am tapping into a new vision. So I actually want anyone listening I want you all to do this with me. So Michelle, I want you to follow along with me, and I want you to tell me what comes up for you. Okay.
I'm excited. Okay.
Okay. Well, I just need a sip. Hold on. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes down. If you're driving, please do not. Maybe pause this for when you're at home, or just imagine. And above your head, or all around you, I just want you to imagine this vortex around you, this like energy around you. And as you get clearer and clearer and clearer about the elements of your vision, and I'm talking about the true yearns of your vision. We talk about yearnings being like a deeper than a want. It's like, you know, sometimes my mind wants maybe, you know, the vacation. But my soul, what my soul really yearns for is like, like freedom with my family, and like wide open schedules and play and laughter. Like that goes deeper than just a vacation. It's like, what does my soul yearn for? So when you start to really identify what those deep yearns are, and those become the elements of your vision. So in this vortex around you, I want you to imagine that all of those things are floating in the vortex above your head. So Michelle, I heard you say prosperity. You know, I use the word freedom. What do all of those things, you know, what does that look like in the vortex above your head? And just name those things. And if you're a visual person, maybe even draw this in a journal in front of you. Like I usually just draw this stick figure of myself, and then all of the things that are in my vision that have not yet arrived above my head. And they're all in this energy vortex around you. So closing down your eyes and just imagining this, feeling into this energy, feeling into all of these different elements. And now I want you to imagine a funnel on the top of your head. So again, the funnel, it's like stretching out to capture all of the things in the energy, you know, in the vortex around you. And the smaller part of the funnel is leading towards you. It's leading towards the top of your head. And I want you to imagine the width of that funnel leading towards your head. Is it wide open? Or is it thin? Is it constricted? And that constriction represents the bottleneck. So just imagining how wide or constricted that funnel is. And then I want you to ask yourself, what does that bottleneck represent to you? And maybe even open up your eyes now and write that down. What does that bottleneck represent? Michelle, what came up for you?
The only thing that feels like it's even wants to constrict it right now, because actually
Feels pretty open.
it feels really open. I'm like,
Yeah.
all sorts of things are just falling into me. It's like just like a belief that like wild magic and miracles can like just come and are real. Like that things can really just, without having to work really hard, grind, earn things, it can all just flow in a way that's like, is it this easy? That belief is what holds it open, but wavering on that belief is what tempts the constriction.
Yeah, so then what you've just named currently, and this would have been a really interesting exercise to have done last week. Oops, as I like tip over this cactus, but last week before this law of opposites, like it would have been interesting to, or even during the law of opposites, to see what's the constriction coming up. What am I naming? What am I looking at? Because that's the work. So what I'm hearing you say is that your work right now is this unwavering faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you can then begin to put in practice, which I know you're already doing, is like anchoring into the vision, doing your rituals, doing your practices to just stay so true and so connected to that, to stay unwavering.
Yeah. You're so right. Like I can actually still connect the feeling in my body that day where like those 3 law of opposites hit me.
Yeah.
And it is a constricting feeling. And you're right. My work through the law of opposites, and even before that, like leading up to even believing that I can write this vision down, it can be my vision, is this sense of like, oh, I don't know, it's almost like massaging the constriction. Like, like from different angles of like, what is this? How do I feel? It's like this massaging and loosening of it. That's a great description of what it was. And sometimes massaging the constriction for me, sometimes it's like I was saying like, okay, body, I know you're scared. Do you want some tea? What do you need? Right? Other times it's like a curiosity about my own thoughts, like questioning myself. What do I believe? Why do I believe that? A stretching towards, what does it feel like to stretch to this thought? It's like this, it's massaging and loosening of that constriction. Yeah.
When I did that exercise, when I was really leaning into, what I kept writing was, I am free. This is like, that's like the first sentence. I mean, I've got journals and journals and journals and journals, and that is the first sentence I always write. Intellectually, again, it was like I'm writing this thing, but how sometimes like things can feel like quicksand in your hand. It's like, I know this is something I want, but I can't quite grasp what this actually means to me, or what does that look like to fully embody that. And when I did that exercise to get clear about like, when I just wrote like freedom at the top, like that's all I was like, that's like all encompassing of this vision. And I really honed in on what the bottleneck was. What I was able to really bring forward and name was this people pleasing, over giving, over delivery, over that was preventing me from freedom. And so that discovery and like putting my finger on it and saying, oh my gosh, that's the bottleneck.
Right.
That's my work right there. I named it. I'm feeling it. That's my work. And then what came next was a very intentional and conscious practice to observe every time. And this happens for me very specifically in business. It's not very present in personal life, but it's very present in business as an entrepreneur. And when I was able to put my finger on that, every time I could feel the desire to people please and over deliver and overcompensate and over and do all the over things, I'm like, I put my finger on you, I see you, I observe the behavior, and I would very uncomfortably make a different choice. Very uncomfortably make a different choice. And very uncomfortably sit in the discomfort of the different choice I was making. And what was really cool as I kept doing that, life was like, then things were starting to shift and rearrange, and it was almost like, I was starting to get evidence that I was actually safe to do that. I was safe. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay. Like, I'm enough. It's enough.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I found freedom. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed on the outside yet. But there is something happening in me where I am finding freedom inside of myself. And what's unfolding now is it's strange. It's almost like this domino effect happening of the freedom I feel inside that's leading me to different choices in my business, that's leading me to different choices in my life, that are leading me to greater levels of freedom. And so it's not immediate, although I feel something's changed. I feel different.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed drastically on the outside. But that's the sweet spot. That's when I know there's been an arrival. And now it's just life is going to catch up.
I can see it in you already by what you can see now. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, you just made this realization about, our schedule.
Yeah.
Right? In a way that can create these beautiful little pockets of more space and freedom.
Yeah.
And it's a choice for the future, it's like, it's coming, but it occurs to me that choice has always been there.
It actually, what Michelle's talking about is that I've recently discovered, we keep saying that, every time the summer rolls around, I'm like, I understand why teachers need summers off. I understand why we need these breaks. We need these resets. And to date, we just go from cohort to cohort to cohort to multi-layered cohorts to da-da-da. There's no breaks. We get maybe a week or two off at Christmas. There's no breaks in service. And then all of a sudden, the other night, I was planning out the next 2 cohorts for the next several years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I see how we can have summers off now. I see how there can be this gap. And it's not going to be just of service to us. It's actually going to be in the highest service of our students.
Yeah.
Why didn't I not see that then? Before, it was just not accessible. And here now, this change that will take place, that we won't feel the effects of till 2 summers from now. Yeah. But this is the freedom. This is the freedom I've been yearning for in spaciousness and as it relates to work and life and balance. And this became accessible. Yeah.
It's like the funnel and the constriction was like blinders to possibility.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And this choice that's always been there, always in your power. No one else makes the schedule but you.
Right. It's always been there.
It's like as soon as you so intentionally did that work on your bottleneck and, have just been like steadily holding it open, all of a sudden you're like, look what I can see and look what I can do.
And what's fascinating as you're reflecting that to me is that, I've been saying and wishing for summers off since I became an entrepreneur. And people would just be like, but you're the boss. Like, why can't you just... And I'm like, I can't take a summer off. Are you out of your mind? Like, no. It was like, people were like, okay, Taryn, like... But it was not even, it was so, I could not see it. Why could I not see it? I can see why I could not see it now. It was because I thought I would be an irresponsible entrepreneur. I would be an irresponsible teacher. The students wouldn't appreciate that. I don't even know all the other stories. It was the people pleaser in me. It was the over thing.
Yeah.
That was blinding me from seeing that was even an option.
Yeah.
And now as the blinders are off, I'm like, of course our students are going to want 6 weeks off in the summer. Of course our team is going to recharge and refuel. And of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But putting my finger on it, in that like visualization, putting my finger on it and then doing the opposite of that, like, what is just like you were like, what's the opposite of irritation? Yeah. It's like, what's the opposite of people pleasing? I don't even know. It's just like so uncomfortable. Like that's what it felt like. It's like boundaries. I don't know. Like what is it? It's like, it's actually just this unwaveringness inside of myself that it's enough.
Yeah. You said the word irresponsible a couple times when you were talking about why it was scary to, like, before it would have been irresponsible to do these things that feel good to me, just irresponsible. The word jumps out at me because I think the fear that I was believing in something else or would possibly do something else would be irresponsible has come up for me before in very different circumstances, like in relation to all sorts of visions that I want. Even I can even relate it a little bit to, well, is it irresponsible to just, instead of going and like, I don't know, going like do, work, make more money if you want to be abundant, is it irresponsible to not do that and just be like, instead, I'm going to anchor into my vision? It's like, I thought so irresponsible has come up a few times, and I'm curious if the fear of being irresponsible connects to anything else for you in the realm of, just in the entire realm of showing up in that next best version of you despite current circumstances.
What a great question. Ooh, I have to think about that. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, because I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think the way that my mind works, maybe it's the way we've been conditioned. Maybe it's because I'm an Enneagram 3, the achiever. It's like we know the right way, like to get from point A, the right way to get from point A to point B. This other way, this like arrive, this like become despite current circumstances, this believing in something bigger than me, this like tapping into the irresponsible deepest yearnings of my heart that like are irresponsible. Like this is so far outside of the norm. And oftentimes we don't have a model for what this looks like in the world. You don't have a model for the deepest yearnings of your heart because that's imprinted on your soul and no one else's. There's no model for what that looks like. True. Same with me. Yeah. There's no model for what the deepest vision of my life looks like because no one is me. And so I think that if we, look at the world and the way the world operates, like the models we do have are very different than what we're talking about here. Yeah. And so it can feel irresponsible. It can feel like, absolutely. And that's like, I talk about sitting inside the uncomfortable emotions that come up when you really name something that you're shaking up or a belief system that you're shaking up, and sitting inside the discomfort of like the irresponsibility or the discomfort of, for me, it was like the people pleasing or whatever it is that we are breaking down to build back up. Yeah. Until it doesn't anymore. Yeah. And I'm, even though this people pleasing thing and this naming, this has only been a couple months of like really naming that and shifting, but like something's changing. I'm like, something's changing in me where it's not uncomfortable anymore. It's like, yes, how did I not see this before? Yeah. It's feeling empowering. I'm making more empowered choices. I have more empowered boundaries. And it's like, it's not stretchy anymore. Yeah. Just like no longer will it feel irresponsible to desire to create wild amounts of abundance without working really damn hard for it in the traditional sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a question that I'm asking myself right now. If I'm imagining somebody listening, and I don't even know the answer, but I want to ask you, and I'll think about it too, but if you don't feel like you have enough, how do you step into feeling like you have enough?
Yeah. I mean, not enough can be found at the root of many limiting beliefs. Lack, scarcity, not enough. I am not enough. I don't have enough. For me, the antidote to that is okay. Can you give me an example of a not enough story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, just really simple. Not enough money to pay bills or have the things I want, or just not enough money.
Okay.
As just one simple one.
So let's not enough money. So what doesn't work is pretending like you have a lot of money and just going to spend money, because like there's like less money. That doesn't work. What's worked for me in the not enough money, specifically in that area, and maybe this is true for any, like not enough time, not enough friends, not enough whatever, love, not enough money, but let's use not enough money. What's worked really, really well for me is, okay, this is like a repeating thing. I'm putting my finger on it. This is like a bottleneck, not enough money. All right. And what is it that I desire to feel? I desire to feel freedom. I desire to feel abundant. I desire to feel like there's always more than enough. So what's been very helpful for me is to look at that, to not ignore it, to not spiritually bypass it, and to look at it and to do a very honest inventory of my life. The way I've done that is I've actually looked at, okay, I'm feeling not enough with the income that I have and the expenses I have going out. And so I can look at two sides. I can look at both. How do I want to increase my income, and how do I want to perhaps even decrease my expenses so that I can actually start to feel like I have more than enough? Because the energy of more than enough, even if it's that much more than enough next month or that much, it starts to snowball. It starts to like change that belief, like that energy. Yeah. And then lots of different possibilities, and like the abundance comes from that. And so it's about like the actual, for me anyway, it's about been actually like, there's been a process of actually doing something about that. So looking at getting, for me, it's been getting into real integrity with my expenses and my finances, and taking out the things that I'm not like intentionally spending on. It's like mindless things that I've been spending on, so that I can lower expenses and increase that feeling of abundance. And focusing on where I do have more than enough, and really intentionally focusing or creating a gratitude practice around that. Yeah. And it might not be more than enough money, but it might be more than enough love. I have so much love in my life. I have like the most incredible community. The health, whatever it might be, right? You're focusing on that energy of more than enough. So that's like energy that's starting to just seep into your cells, seep into your pores. And as you're doing whatever money work that you're working on, like that energy starts to take over. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never forget you saying this. I don't know why. It was like years ago. And I think it was in a period of time where you were just like, really, you had your eyes on what you were spending. Yeah. And you're, like really being in integrity. Yeah. Really mattered. And I remember once you saying something as little as, I had to go buy a broom today for $10 or something like that. And like, I had $10 to buy this broom that I needed. And I don't know why that impacted me so much, but it's like a really accessible little thing. It's like, I need a broom to sweep my floors, and like, I can buy that for myself. Seems small, but like, no, it's not. This like, I can buy
Yes.
these apples for my
Yeah.
kids and feed them, and there's enough.
And you know, you're making a really good point, because for me the exercise of going through my expenses and it was actually what I was actually most deeply yearning for, was this like feeling of enough, and this feeling of like real honor and respect for my money, like real integrity, and not and I wasn't in a place of real integrity. I mean, I just like had it was almost like these holes of money that were just going to these places, and like all these like things that, you know, subscriptions here, this and that, and like, you know, not buying anything on sale. And it was just felt out of control.
Yeah.
And so it was just like coming back to this deep honor of my money. And like, oh, I don't need all this stuff. And it was so freeing to let that go and let this go. And like, I could even like, you know, I started like buying things on sale and like couponing. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm so grateful that like there was these deals. And I was just, it was just the relationship with money totally changed.
Yeah.
And you know, the joy of like, I have $10 to spend on this broom. Like, instead of just like put the broom in, like, oh, I gotta get this and I gotta get that. It's just this like real intentionality and this real honor. And that creates such a different energetic, like, sends you somewhere different energetically.
Yeah.
And sends you to a place of enough, like more than enough.
Yeah.
Sets the wheels in motion. Same is true for time. Not enough time. Well, if I feel like, I mean, that's the story of my life. And so an exercise I've done recently, I mean, as I'm really journeying into what freedom means to me, is what am I spending my time on? That's not, and what I learned was, I actually did an inventory of my incredibly long list of to-dos. And as I was putting my finger on this people pleasing, I was like highlighting, that's a people pleasing move. That's a people pleasing move. That's unnecessary. That's unnecessary. And as I took those out, I was like, would you look at that?
Look at the time.
Would you look at the time that I've just created for myself and my schedule? Wow. You know, it's like, look at it.
Yeah.
Finances, time, not enough friends, not enough community, not enough. Look at your life. Look at it. And make changes where changes need to be made. Sift through the emotions that are coming up for you and choose again. We always have that option to choose again.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
You know what, a thing that kind of strikes me as true that I've noticed? There are times when I really believe a not enough story in my head. And sometimes it's true. I really do want life to change around me. And shifting that story helps life change around me. And it's beautiful. And it's a deep aligned yearning. And there's sometimes when a not enough story is completely false. Completely false. And eliminating the story to what is already here without life actually changing kind of awakens me to just like the illusion just sort of disappears. And everything that I actually wanted, I'm so surprised to find was present.
Yeah.
Not in everywhere, but just there's like these little pockets too where, and I think that's powerful, doing that in one little area. And you mentioned gratitude is like, and then the gratitude for having friends or love or a warm bed or slippers you love or like healthy kids or money or whatever. Like building up that gratitude and feeling what you do have, I think is fuel for all the other things.
I think you're absolutely right. This reminds me, my mom is doing yoga teacher training right now. Yeah, I know.
Good for her.
I know. Isn't that cool? It's
amazing.
retirement. Yeah. And she was telling me the other weekend something that one of the teachers told her was that, you know how we know that when we push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, we grow. And so they were framing that this yoga teacher training is going to push you outside of your comfort zone, but it's going to help you grow in this area. But there's new research that says that is not isolated to one area. When we push ourselves outside of our comfort zone in one area of our life, it actually impacts all the areas of our life. We become braver and more courageous in all of the areas of our life. And that just reminds me of like growth in one area, or gratitude in one area, growth in one area. We are these multifaceted beings, and it expands to all the areas of our life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so from where you are right now, having named the bottleneck for yourself and are consistently, steadily choosing to be this next best version of you. Even if your schedule is not dramatically changed, you are living, feeling that sense of freedom right now. What do you think the road ahead looks like from here in the next few steps?
Ooh, I see it as I see this next little unfoldment as like harvesting the fruits of my labor. That's what it feels like. It feels like that was really hard. There was a lot of growth. There was a lot I just did. And it feels like this next little chapter is the harvest. It's the fruits of the labor. Yeah, that's what it feels like. And that feels real damn good. What about you?
I really like your answer. I really, I hope that is exactly true. When I was doing the funnel exercise and I was imagining all the things that I they're my vision that I want. I was envisioning them even flowing into me. One thing that was flowing into me were apples. Because I want to plant apple trees and have an orchard. And so I was like, oh, there's apples and all these apples are flowing in. And when you're saying it's harvesting the fruits of your labor, I'm literally, I really hope, I notice, so being here on this property that I wished for and I'm here, sometimes I wander around outside and I'm still it almost takes my breath away when I'm walking down in the woods and I'm this is so beautiful. I'm so lucky. And I think it's just a lot of that feeling as more, but then there's more to have that feeling about. I hope that's what's coming for me, more of I'm so lucky.
So I just want to ask you one final question.
Yeah.
Because it kind of puts a finger on what you were naming as your slight bottleneck.
Yeah.
What would take you from hope to know? I know this is coming.
Oh.
But holding that no loosely. What would it take?
I think it's this is steadiness. Just this sense of staying the course. I do know. I do know. It's staying the course. When, I know we both like Viking shows. For anyone else who likes Viking shows.
Violent Viking shows.
you know when they're in this little Viking boat.
Yeah.
And they're sailing to wherever. And they're almost dying, and they're we're never going to find land. Yeah. And they're literally running out of water, and they're almost dead, and they're giving up. And then it's there's land. Yeah.
It's like they see the bird first.
They always see the seagull first.
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
It's like, I really know land is coming. I know it. I like sense the birds. I know it. And also, when I actually see the birds and when I actually see the land, it's still like
mind-blowing. I know, isn't it?
like bring me to my knees, literally, and just like
yeah. But isn't that the fun of it all?
Yeah, it's amazing,
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that wonder and that awe that feels so damn good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved this conversation.
It made me excited.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. For more information, you can visit our website at www.themindrebel.com or visit us on Instagram or Facebook at @the_mind_rebel_academy. And these links can all be found in the show notes below. If you like this episode, we would be so grateful if you shared it with your fellow bold dreamers.